Good evening, everybody. Welcome back, and thanks again for checking out the channel. So, a little while ago, I was talking with somebody about shiny new idea syndrome, about taking on multiple projects, and basically the challenge of being a dabbler. Someone that will start a project, dabble in it for a little while, and then move on. All right. And I went over some suggestions. I recommended a couple books to read. The general idea, which I talk about in this channel all the time, of simply sticking with the project through the boredom. That the key to avoiding shiny new idea syndrome is to basically be okay being bored. To recognize that there are cooler ideas out there than what you're working on, and trudging ahead on your current project regardless. It's getting good at that. It's developing a certain willpower to kind of dial your focus in on your current project. And it's recognizing that a cool project in your head is less valuable than an okay project that's on paper. All right. What you have on paper, no matter how much more boring or less interesting or what have you than this cool idea you have in your head, that thing on paper is worth more. It's more valuable because it's actually done. It's written. And the more you keep jumping around to these new ideas, the more you're undercutting yourself. And I'm as guilty as anybody when it comes to shiny new idea syndrome. I literally took a detour. I talked about it. I took a detour. I spent, what was it, like 2 or 3 days writing a short story, like the first draft of a short story, while I was working on this novel here. It happens. I was able to kind of work with my problems rather than avoiding it. I was able to work with the problem by simply giving myself a short window. All right, fine. You want to take a detour? Fine. You've only got a couple days to do it. After a couple days, you're getting back on the novel. I'm even thinking about doing that again. There's another short story that's been kind of pulling at me, and I'm thinking more and more that I'm probably going to take a couple more days, divert off this path, and work on it. Again, I'm able to kind of work with this problem in my own way where, yes, I'm kind of caving to the shiny new idea. I'm kind of caving in on not exercising the willpower to fight it. Instead, just going to go with it, lose a couple days, who cares, and then get back to the main project again. That's one way of working with it, I guess. But ultimately, a lot of this comes down to just avoiding a lot of these concepts, because a lot of them aren't even... A lot of your shiny new ideas aren't even that sustainable. They're not really much better than what you've done before. They're not much better than the current project. You have to recognize that. Occasionally, there are a few that are better. Occasionally, you get a concept or idea that's actually better, but it's pretty rare. Most of the time, it only sounds better because it's in your head and there's no flaws when something's in your head. I guess to kind of wrap this up, I'll leave it with this last idea. And this is the overarching idea. Like, this is the big takeaway. Forget everything else I just said and just pay attention to this. As a writer, as someone who likes to write novels, and I'm assuming if you're the viewer right now, you're focusing on a novel. You've got a big project, not some short story or something like that, but an actual novel. If you're thinking about that, if you're thinking about working on a large novel, on a large project that's going to take potentially multiple years, what you have to recognize is you only have so many projects you can do in your lifetime. It's scary. It's scary. And a 35-year-old telling you this. is either sage advice if you're young, or really, really dumb advice if you're old, because you probably are like, well, yeah, but I'm young. What, I'm younger than you. So why am I telling you this? But if you think about it, in one decade, how much time do you have? Like, how many books can you put out in a decade? 4, maybe 3. Okay. In 10 years, with a diligent work ethic, maybe 4 books, maybe 2-ish, maybe 4 to 5 books, maybe with a good work ethic. But realistically, I mean, with kids, family, everything else, you're probably looking at closer to maybe 3. Maybe 3. That's kind of where I'm at. Scarily enough, I know I put out 2 books in back-to-back years, but that was like 10 years of that was like 10 years of writing to build this up, and those books were like in the tail end of those 10 years. So you're just seeing the trajectory. You're not seeing the momentum. You're seeing the trajectory after the momentum's already been used up. So you've got 3 books maybe in 10 years to write. Okay. You've got to pick 3 very special projects. Those 3 books better be freaking amazing books. Those better have the staying power to last you 3 years. You better have enough concept, enough theme, enough areas of exploration that it can hold your interest for 3 years. And if you're jumping from project to project willy-nilly, the odds are you're going to pick a bad project. If the very next shiny new idea you get becomes your 3-year project, I guarantee you it's not going to get you. I guarantee you it's going to suck. It's going to be miserable, because the stories that can take 3 years to write, that are worth 3 years to write, that are life-changing for some readers, that have these themes and ideas that would blow people's minds, and stuff you talk about, this really deep heart at the center of the human condition, those kind of stories, they're rare, and they take a lot of time of thinking. A book will sit in my head for at least a year, before I even start writing it down. Obviously, a short story, like I said before, a short story I'll jump around with a little bit. But a big project like a novel, that will stay in my head for at least a year at a minimum. And both going over and Crease, okay, here comes the hypocrisy a little bit. Crease stayed in my head for about 5 minutes before I started writing it. But that was a grade. That was because I was in grad school and I needed to come up with a project literally on the fly. My initial project for my grad school thesis was denied. I was basically told that this idea sucks, don't do it. And so I had to pitch a new idea really, really quickly to basically go forward. So Crease, ignore that for a minute. Crease, I got lucky. I was the exception to the rule. But going over the idea of 2 guys, this 2 rivalry with the pro wrestling angle and the small town stuff, that kind of story has been sticking in my head for years. That was in my head for years and years before I ever sat down to write it. It was only that I didn't think I was talented enough to pull it off initially in grad school that I didn't write then. I thought the idea was just too advanced for my skill at the time. Probably was, to be honest. I think making that my second novel versus my first one, there's a lot of growth in that one over the first one. I probably wouldn't have been able to do as well. But that story stayed with me for years, guys. Years. And so the point is, the story I'm working on now, has been in my head since late 2022. So we're in 2025 right now. Started working on it a little bit last year. So that was like at least 2 years. That's probably 2 years it stayed in my head. A year and a half, 2 years, this concept of a story that I finally am now working on. This is what it takes. The stories that are going to last are not the ones that are going to come to you in an instant. They're ones that you're going to sit on and marinate and really try to find the deeper meaning, the deeper themes that you can apply. So when you jump around from project to project, what you're doing is you're undercutting the chance at doing a very powerful and very lasting story, because it takes a long time to let a story fester with you. Because most of the time, those stories that fester, 90% of my ideas, 90% of anything that comes into my head is tossed out. It won't last. It just an initial concept is not going to last. It's the stuff that stays with you after multiple years that will sustain itself, that will actually push you, that's actually worth writing. That's something the reader will connect with. If it can stay in your head for multiple years, there's probably a good chance that there's going to be a reader out there for it. All right. Yeah. So I've rambled here for a minute, but this is the point I'm trying to get across. And again, this one's a bit more towards that person I was talking to earlier today. This is more of a pointed message to one person, but it is, again, obviously for everyone else that's going through this process as well. Okay. So thank you so much for listening to this, and I will see you all tomorrow.